Right, hi folks. Not sleeping again, so let's crack on with this one. Right, so here we have a couple of them that have been brought to us by Brian Gerrish in the UK column, both launched on his platform. Um, so let's jump into this. It's absolutely ludicrous, and we're not going to go through all of it, but I just want to play a little part of this because it's Wilfred and the convicted kidnapper Wilfred Wong and his buddy John Wedger, who, as far as I'm aware, is still defending this. So yeah, let's jump in.
I'm not going to worry, it's still going to record. It's just
Quality again.
hi, just John Wedge here, just showing you London.
Oh God, yeah, we've seen that view 100 times.
I'm
No
with
need.
Wilfred. Sorry, there's not much of a backdrop here. Right,
Why this
Wilfred, we're
has to be
getting
done on
shot
a roof
there.
was always beyond me. But
Hello
then he's the maintenance
Evelina.
man.
Hello Alan.
Oh God.
Sorry about this. It's again, it's right, let's just try and get you in shot. Let's let the figures go up. Sorry, it looks like it might come out sideways, but unfortunately it's doing this. It's just one of them things. Whenever I talk about anything to do with Satanism, this occurs. So if you just come in shot.
So he's trying to make out the fact that he doesn't know how to use a mobile phone as to whether it's in landscape or not is because he's talking about Satniks. All right, John. Not that you're completely inept or anything like that. Couldn't possibly be that. And to be honest, when I was over in Turkey, my phone was doing a weird thing where it wouldn't. It would only stick in portrait. Usually it's an update or something like that. But of course, it's the Satniks. Oh no, were the Satniks trying to get me when I was in Turkey? Oh no. Ah, if only I'd thought of that then, I was in mortal peril. Right, so here we go. This is these two. This, what I believe, was June last year. So if only Wilford known then, he had like just what 5, 6 months worth of freedom left. He might not be standing on a roof. He might be, I don't know, doing better things with his time. But he thought he was untouchable, didn't he? He thought he was untouchable. Wasn't though, was he?
Got there, Wilfred. We can't see you in shot now. Right, so I'll just let the figures go up. Let's go up to 200. So, John Wedger here with Wilfred. We're both
Sniffing.
having bad hair moments up on the roof here. So let's let the figures go up.
Have either of them had a good hair moment?
2 more. Please, no comments about the comments coming up
Trolls.
upside down. It's just, I just couldn't be bothered to muck around with the settings.
Look at that. He couldn't be. Oh, sorry, it's not the Satanist then. He couldn't be bothered to mess around with the settings. Okay, you do you, John.
So can you please give me a thumbs up if we're both in shot? Right. So, good evening, everyone. John Wedge here with another one of my Brew with a View. They've been going for a few months now. I'm utilising every single minute that I can of this ridiculous lockdown lunacy to promote the work that we're doing. And
No, no, John. You were using it to promote yourself. Stop it now. Behave. Behave.
as we've been seeing with a lot of the work,
Work.
been getting testimony after testimony, and what's happening is
No, no, John. Let's be clear here. You've been turning people away and have been quite rude to people at this point if they wouldn't agree that their abuse was satanic. You were only interested in that. You upset a lot of vulnerable people. But, oh, look, Jeanette. Yeah. Brian Gerrish upset a lot of people as well. Weird that, isn't it? People who actually had evidence, who wanted genuine help, you weren't interested in that. But anyway.
SRA, satanic ritual abuse, keeps raising its head. At first it was a minority of the testimonies that I was dealing with, but you know what? it's gone over that now, and it's become really the majority of people that
No, the majority of people that contacted you, you turned away or tried to convince them that their abuse was ritualistic.
contact me now, there is a satanic connotation. And one of the things that we're seeing with the SRA testimony is a very bizarre thing. It's the fact that the women that abuse children sexually, violently, emotionally and spiritually abuse children on a par, if not on a greater scale than men.
This wouldn't be John's women issues coming through here at all, would it? Isn't it funny from yesterday how the story has changed from them days? How it's completely morphed. Look at how he is now. Look how he is, the tone of his voice. He's bleh. But anyway, there is a point to this rather than rehashing the old rehashing. It's more about what utter dross drops out his mouth. I wouldn't be surprised if this may well have been one of the clips that they used against him in court. I mean, there must have been hundreds that would make him look exactly what he is, a raving lunatic capable of kidnapping a child and holding a lady up at knife point. But this would have been a good one.
So I'm privileged to have Wilfred. Wilfred is a long-term friend, and Wilfred has been campaigning.
How's he a long-term friend? How long? How long? Was you still in the police when he was your long-term friend? When did he turn into your long-term friend? See, we need to know this. How do these guys all know each other? They're all connected.
Tirelessly for decade after decade, and welcome to the roof, Wilfred.
Hello.
You know, and what happens is when stuff comes my way, I always link in with Wilfred.
Wow.
You know, you've got such a wealth of knowledge.
Okay, so he what? So something comes to John and he goes to Wilfred with it. Why? People are coming to you in confidence, I'd imagine. But hey,
Now, you saw the testimony the other day of a lady called Jeanette. In respect to Jeanette, what Jeanette had to say, how does this tie in with what you dealt with in the past?
Well, it has a lot of the common characteristics of SRA cases. For example, the use of tunnels.
Yep.
The Satanists are quite keen on using tunnels to hold children in and to also do the SRA in.
Yep.
And to get from one place
to do the SRA in. The hell is that? Yeah, we've got a tunnel here. We better do the SRA. Crazy man.
to another without being detected. A famous case in America, the McMartin Case, where in
we're going to get to that in a minute. This is the delusions of a madman here, right here.
Nursery school, children were being subjected to SRA, and during the investigation, a tunnel system was discovered underneath it.
Right.
That was so complicated that they had to bring in an archaeologist to fully map the system for them.
And why tunnels? What's the significance?
Completely untrue. We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a bit. Right, so he's now using a case from, I believe, 1983, something like that. And we're going to see where this preschool was. If you actually think there was a load of tunnels underneath that, like, we'd all be as barking as Wilfred. All be as barking mad as Wilfred. And John, do we remember? John was so good at digging and investigating. Yesterday we heard it from his own mouth. He was patting himself on the back. He didn't spend any time researching any of this. Otherwise he would have, after this had come out, he would have gone, actually, no, the McMartin preschool thing that Wilfred was on about is completely false. Scrub that. I want nothing to do with that big old made up lie.
Tunnels.
Well,
But he didn't.
it's a very practical thing for them to use. But the other interesting thing is, if you look at the Bible, in Ezekiel chapter 8, where it talks about the leaders of ancient Israel secretly worshipping demons, a lot of it was done in tunnels. And in the book of Revelation, it's prophesied that at the time of the Antichrist, when judgment is coming upon the world for their sins and their abuses, which will of course include a lot of SRA, that the perpetrators of these abuses will be asking the mountains and the rocks to cover them,
Right.
which is a implied reference to
It's
going
an
underground,
archaeological, reference,
underground
isn't it? Yeah.
tunnels. So there appears to be a long-held practice of seeking to go underground for shelter, but also in buildings. I've noticed that Satanists like to use basements
Yeah.
in buildings. So interesting
Not really.
characteristic that keeps coming up. Not always, of course, but in many cases.
No,
And in the
okay.
case of Jeanette, another characteristic was the police reluctance to
Yeah.
deal with a case.
Yeah.
I've come across
That's not true. They investigated it and they found no evidence whatsoever. And do you know why? Because she's a great big liar. I need to correct myself. Yesterday, I don't think I upset anyone, but I misspoke. So when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Um, I actually was talking about when John was saying that some of the girls had come from traveler communities, and I'd actually said I doubt that very much because they keep their children very close. Um, Actually, someone in the chat pointed out that no, that's not the case. She knew actually of a young girl that had got pulled into an abuse situation, and she actually was from the traveller community. So, like, if I've spoke out of turn, we'll correct that there. Equally, the little video that I put up, I did put underneath that it was from me Nair, which is another person who's been watching these ugh, whatever we want to call them. She's been watching closely and has been sort of like on and around part of this channel for quite some time now. That video, I didn't make it. Enair made it. So if that wasn't clear, I did put it in the description there. It was sitting underneath, but maybe people didn't see it. So right, that's the housekeeping done.
buildings in the past, like the farm,
Yeah.
houses in some cases, which are specially protected by the police. And when somebody tries to expose the place to the police threaten the witness, the whistleblower, and they are clearly not interested in investigating it.
I think one of the things I noticed was that when I had a great career until I really looked into organised child abuse, which probably aired.
Did you, John? No, did you? Because you didn't even want to be a policeman. You fell into it. It was a fireman or a policeman. You were drifting, weren't you? Weren't you? I don't know, working on a building site or something, and your sister said apply to the police. It wasn't like a vocation for you, was it? It wasn't like something you'd wanted to do from a little boy.
Some of it on missing children, which would tie in a lot with satanic abuse. Now, the attack I got came from high up. These weren't coppers
No, it didn't.
on the street. We get a lot of it when I get a lot of people contact me and they say, I think you're slightly out of shot there, Wilfred, come this way. When people contact me and they say, look, social workers are stealing children, the police are all Masons and are all covering up. And it's not the fact, not the truth, because a lot of them, the Bobby on the beat isn't your enemy. He will be used, but he'll be unwittingly used. What I found, these are people high up. And this is what I found, high up in
Oh, well, that's changed. Wow. Well, I suppose it had to fit the narrative, didn't it?
in the institutions like the police, which are deliberately covering it up. And if we look at Surrey's cropped up a lot. If we look
Why? Because this is where Jeanette said it all came from. Wrap it up.
at the range list, I keep having mention of the range list. The range list is an acronym, RAINS. Please, 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 I implore people, look up the range list. It was written by a lady called Joan Coleman. And I think, Wilfred, our chats wouldn't be the same if we don't allude to the range list. And on it is a Metropolitan Police, two Metropolitan Police officers.
Guys, with regards to that, I mean, we know that I've been kicking around this for many, many years, like right the way back to sort of like the Maloney baloney days. Honestly, can anyone remember when the fake Rains list was going around and wasn't it John Wedge's name was on it? And the whole of Truther Woofer community went nuts because there was I can't remember, I think David Cameron was on there and it was basically anyone topical of that time. Do you remember when, I mean, not that the Rains list isn't fake anyway, but when the fake Rains list, has anyone got the fake Rains list? I was sure I had it somewhere. But that really was quite the spectacle at the time. Oh God.
Officers. One of them, again, I'm not going to name the guy because he hasn't faced any criminal proceedings yet. But one of them was in charge of the unit that I was on, which
Hang on, John, you're a whistleblower. What do you mean you can't name him? You're a whistleblower. If he's been getting away with it for years, well, you best do it quick, before he dies. He might be really old.
speaks volumes as
And then
well.
you'll name him.
Absolutely screams volumes. Now, the other thing with the testimonies that we've put out with brave people like Jeanette is that they get corroborated, and they do.
What?
So it looks like Jeanette is on its way to being corroborated by a third party.
That never happened. Where was the corroboration from the third party with regards to Jeanette? I mean, anyone who sticks their name with Jeanette Archer at the moment must need help. Because she's such a big liar, and so is John. Wilfred Wong's a kidnapper. Like, what? Where was the corroboration for Jeanette? Oh, there wasn't any. That'd be it then.
It looks like Vicky Ash's testimony
Please.
has almost certainly been corroborated.
Oh, please. Where? Where has Vicky Ash ever been corroborated? Shut up. She's been kicking around this. She's like the original. She's been kicking around this forever. She can't corroborate a pack of lies story.
By someone that's come to me. So the work that we've been doing as an anti-Satanist community, Wilfred, is
Oh my
paying
God.
off.
An anti-Satanist community. Oh, coming from the whistleblower that didn't whistle or blow anything. Well, we don't know. I mean, personal lives are personal lives, right? This is bizarre, considering that like just 6 months later, Wilfred's in the clink.
Yes. On the police point, I would say that if you have an SRA case, don't withhold it from the police just because you assume that all of them are not going to help. You won't know until you approach them. So I would say give it a try and test the waters.
Exactly.
And if they don't help you and if they give you problems, at least you have that on record and you can then try other options. But
Like
give them
what?
a chance to act on.
Wow. Like what? Oh, not being a vigilante and taking the law in your own hands and ending up in prison for God knows how many years, Wilfred. Not that, surely.
On the case. If you have evidence to support your case, be sure to keep a copy of it because when there's a cover-up, evidence has a habit of suddenly going missing
Or floods, or fires.
lost.
Floods and
So
fires.
always make sure you have a copy. On top of that,
Okay, keep a copy in case there's floods, fires, plagues of locusts. Yep, what else? Come on, Wilf. More advice. I mean, like, unless you had, like, an amoeba for a brain, you'd probably be keeping copies anyway.
if you have some key information about, for example, in Jeanette's case, where bodies are buried,
Oh, my God.
it would be helpful if you can try and confirm that privately, not all the bodies, but just one, for example.
What? Okay, so where all the bodies are? I mean, in Jeanette's case, there aren't any. You don't need all of the bodies, just the one. Yeah, just get the one. You wouldn't be in prison or anything or get done for, tampering with a corpse or anything like that. Wouldn't be illegal at all. What? Oh my God. Should we take that back a bit? And I won't chat over it. Oh, not that far back. About there.
Just because you assume that all of them are not going to help, you won't know until you approach them. So I would say give it a try and test the waters.
Exactly.
And if they don't help you and if they give you problems, at least you have that on record and you can then try other options. But give them a chance to act on the case. If you have evidence to support your case, be sure to keep a copy of it because when there's a cover-up, evidence has a habit of suddenly going missing
Or floods,
or
or fires.
lost.
Floods and
So
fires.
always make sure you have a copy. On top of that, if you have some key information about, for example, in Jeanette's case, where bodies are buried, it would be helpful if you can try and confirm that privately, not all the bodies, but just one, for example, and before you go to the police, because then you know that they're definitely still there and the Satanists haven't cleared it out yet. Because in some cases, the Satanists will come back and clear out all the bodies.
Yeah.
And then when...
So what is he actually advising? The Wilfred advice is what? Just not all the bodies. I mean, is this crazy or what? Like, any sane person, how can you listen to this and go, all right, Wilf, yes, that sounds like very good advice. I need some real evidence, so I don't need all of the bodies, just the one. Yep, that's it, just the one. Like you're picking up, I don't know, a sock off the floor. This is disgusting and crazy. I mean,
the police come, and if they do their job and dig and find nothing, then they'll just think that you're making the whole story up.
Is that because you would have been making the whole story up, Jeanette?
Yeah.
So having some small confirmation for your own knowledge before you go to them may be helpful. And also, if the police are...
Just some small confirmation, like a body. My God, this guy was... I don't think I watched this. I think I completely zoned out of John at this stage.
corrupt, just in case they are protecting that place, they may tip off the abusers that someone's on to them about where they buried the bodies. So you just want to go there and make sure it's still there, if you can, and take some pictures and then go and see the police. So yeah, I mean, one has to...
So half dig it up, take some pictures, go to the police. This really sounds like a viable thing to do. And if this was true, we know it's not. Sending like normal Joe Publics onto somebody else's property to go and creep about. Oh, would this be like what Lou told us about John creeping about in Barrymore's garden? I mean, I don't know if that was true. I take it that it was. I mean, it sounds like the sort of crazy crap he'd come up with. But this isn't safe. Say this was true. You'd be putting people in absolute mortal peril.
be quite smart in doing this, in dealing with the police, because you're not sure whether they're going to cooperate or whether they're going to basically tip off the people you're trying to expose or simply ignore you.
Well, we see frustration all along. There was a group called Hoaxted that were particularly energetic in sort of trying to discredit me and put me down. Now, I got some good information from an insider, and he's named them, the members of them, and he said, John, they are a pro-Satanist group.
Well, I think they're a Satanist group.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Look at them grinning. Look at him. Oh, yes. Well, because they're calling out all the lies. They're all Satanists. Well, because, of course, anyone that questions these people is Satanists. This is what these people do. If they get caught out in the lie, in the lie, in the lie, then you're either a Chomo protector or a Satanist. I mean, what, for well over a year now, I've had my life made an abject misery by this motley crew of criminals, wannabe criminals. And I've been called everything, absolutely everything, to the point it's actually obliterated my mental health. Because you can call out a lie. because you don't want vulnerable people getting sucked into crap like this. Because I still am of the opinion that some of the people that were in prison with Wilfred, but over the Wilfred Wong thing, yeah, absolutely batshit crazy thing to get involved with. But I believe they were groomed, and they are not all of them, but some of them are victims of this because they got sucked in hook, line, and sinker to the point they're in jail, and they're in jail for a very long time. Wow. So the people in hoax, they're all Satanists. All right.
The satanic group, yeah.
Yeah.
And someone said, John, you're going to be attacked by paedophiles and paedophile
Oh, here we go.
protectors.
Of course.
And so just call them out.
Yes.
And
Go
this
on
is
then.
quite funny because when I have started calling them out saying, look, this is the reason I'm being attacked, is because I am exposing this vile criminality.
John, you exposed nothing. If you could have proven any of this, then normal people on the street would have been so shocked and so appalled if you'd had any real evidence that people would have been up in arms over it. Say Christians, non-Christians, anyone would have gone, this is so appalling, this is so disgusting, something's got to get done about this. But you never did produce any evidence. You still haven't produced any evidence. How dare he?
You know, a lot, I would say 90% of it stopped. You're still getting it from a little group, but by their fruit shall they know. The other thing, Wilfred,
Oh my God,
is people
shut
say
up.
to me, SRAs are nonsense, it doesn't exist. And I say to them, look, it doesn't matter what you believe in, they believe in it and they do it. And so if we look,
See, the thing is, there's been people convicted of murders and God knows all sorts of things, saying that they've been Satanists and stuff like that. Most of them have had serious like mental health illnesses, like non-medicated schizophrenia and stuff like that. I've said from day one, there's a pervert out there for everything. Like there really is. There really is. I've never said that it doesn't exist. I've said that it doesn't exist in the way that they're saying it exists. Never said it doesn't exist. But it's a tiny damn percentage.
look at their history of Satanism in the UK, I mean, what are we looking at? How established is this? How widespread?
The earliest documented research, which was done by Tim Tate in his book Children of the Devil, which is available online for anyone who wants to read it. It's very difficult to get as a hard copy, although apparently there's a copy of it in the British Library. And he documents quite well that SRA in the UK goes back to at least the 18th century. And it was the upper classes who were very active in it. Not all the upper classes, but some of them, including some parliamentarians.
Yeah.
Sounds
Of
familiar,
course.
doesn't it? And at their meetings, there were reports of children being abused by the parliamentarians. So we've come one full circle.
Isn't it amazing though? But he was in Westminster, wasn't he, for all those years, 20 odd years, as a lobbyist for the Jubilee campaign. He was right in the nest of it then, by his own admission. If it's all like the head of the snake is Westminster, he was right there for all them years. How ineffective was he then, really? Because no, nothing. He's chatting on the roof with John Wedger. I mean, barrel scraping here.
But I would point out that compared to the 18th century, SRA has exploded
Yeah.
hugely.
Yeah.
So whoever says it doesn't exist is living on another planet and needs to have their head examined, because it is
Well, I'm quite happy to live on another planet as opposed to in prison for 17 odd years.
a reality. They are suffering from severe cognitive dissonance, simply ignoring the evidence in front of them.
Now, and the other thing is people say to me, I don't believe in Jesus. Where was Jesus when these children were being abused? And it's a difficult one to answer because some of these people saying this are the victims themselves and they've suffered horrific abuse and they say to me, but I called out for God so many times, he never come, John, he never come. So it's difficult for me really to sort of, try and console these people because I will just upset them and insult them if I start going on about deities. Now, all I say to them is that this isn't religious. You know, Jesus Christ is not religious. I believe in Jesus. I think he protects me in the
Jesus Christ is not religious, but I thought he was the religion. What's he chatting about?
work I do, and the more I do this
So actually, really, when people said, okay, when this terrible thing was happening, where was God? Where was Jesus then? So you never did answer the question for them. You know why? Because you can't. No one can.
work, the more I believe in him.
Yes.
You know, and I have to say to him, look, that, you know, this isn't about Jesus allowing it to happen. You know, this is like the devil has taken over. We have seen the perversion in society get bigger and bigger and bigger. And when we go on about politicians, we look at people like Cyril Smith and Leon Britton, the intelligence services, in my opinion.
The dead ones. So, okay, they're all dead, right? No one's doing it now. Closed chapter. Otherwise, you'd be naming them, wouldn't you, John? Surely. You wouldn't be scared of slander if it was all true. You wouldn't be scared of ending up like Andrew Ash. Was it Andrew Ash who ended up in jail? Oh, Cole Beach. No, sorry, Cole Beach. Andrew Ash could have well ended up in jail if that would have carried on. Cole Beach. Yeah, you wouldn't be scared of ending up like Cole Beach because you'd have all this proof, wouldn't you? So there can't be any going on in Westminster anymore, right?
Opinion would have known that these blokes were involved in satanic abuse.
Yeah. God knows what's going on, but he's waiting for a lot of us to act in cooperation with him to stop this evil.
Yep.
He's not going to do it all for us while we sit back and do nothing. And unfortunately, largely as a society over the past 40, 50 years, we have been experts at doing nothing on SRA.
Yep.
We have to take responsibility, and when we take action, God will step in and move even more than he has in the past on this issue. He has been working. I've had SRA survivors telling me about how they saw angels coming to help them when they were children.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Yes, so this is not a case of him just simply ignoring their needs. In fact, I said to the SRA survivor, well, who do you think is the boss of the angels and sends them to help you? I believe it's Jesus Christ. And the fact is that
oh, I can't. Right, that's enough. It's like you're probably going to get this Saturday at some stage. It takes 100 years to try and upload anything. I can't. But anyway, let's get on to this next thing. I'm hoping I don't get a sort of in trouble for this. I could do because I'm not. I haven't been able to put a file extension on this to mess around with it. So let's just play it as it is. It's about 15 minutes long. I'm not going to chip in much here. But remember right at the beginning, the McMartin preschool, the tunnels underneath it. Let's have a little watch of this.
Nursery school teachers were arraigned today on more than 100 counts of child molestation.
The accused include the preschool owner, 76-year-old Virginia McMartin, her daughter, and 2 grandchildren.
Finding out just what happened to the McMartin preschoolers in Manhattan Beach, California, would spark a national media obsession.
A case which has shocked much of Southern California and caused a lot of parents to worry about the safety of their children,
setting off a panic around the country.
In alarming numbers, preschoolers have been exploited.
Could it be your child?
The media blitz demonstrated unstinting belief that this had happened.
It was sensational and lurid and seemed to always be expanding.
1,400 children in this community have been ritualistically abused.
Look at that. This is how dangerous it is, what Wedger is up to. It can go around like a virus, like a common cold, out of nothing. Absolutely nothing. Like a small snowball that turns into a massive avalanche. The destruction that was done to this community and the people accused. I can't even. Well, I can comprehend it. I can comprehend it, but not on this scale. Not on this scale. The aftermath of this must still be going on.
But were they? Decades later, while the McMartin case has been largely forgotten, its impact lives on.
Didn't get forgotten by Wilfred Wong though, because he's just spouted it to us like it's fact.
The McMartin Preschool in Manhattan Beach, as it looked when we photographed it discreetly just 3 weeks ago. For most
Local.
Let's not forget, he said there's loads of tunnels and that underneath here. Really intricate tunnels that they had to get archaeologists out for. Huh?
Reporter Wayne Satz of KABC in Los Angeles broke the story.
It started out here in Manhattan Beach looking like an isolated incident. One mother noticed that her young son was having nightmares and difficulty sitting down.
Teachers at this prominent Southern California preschool were accused of sexually molesting their young students.
Authorities now believe that at least 60 young children were victimized, and that the ultimate number could well be.
So it went from 60, well, it went from 1 to 60 to 1,400.
Much greater.
Fueled by unskeptical press reports, the charges mounted on the evening news.
Those children, some of them as young as 2 years old, were photographed by the suspects.
Kiddie porn was the primary purpose for the alleged sexual abuse of children.
Becoming more and more bizarre.
Some children allege that a living creature was sacrificed on the church's altar.
The truth about Satanism is they truly do use blood, and they mix it with urine, and then they also use the real meat, the real flesh. This is what makes Satanism true, and this is what 1,200 molested kids in the city of Manhattan Beach have told the sheriff's department.
Most of the allegations had been made here at Children's Institute International, CII, a child abuse prevention center. At the request of prosecutors, CII social worker Kee McFarlane and her team had been videotaping interviews with the preschoolers.
Using puppets to encourage the children to reveal what happened, the therapists were able to unlock the horrible secrets of the McMartin School.
Virginia McMartin, her daughter, 2 grandchildren, and 3 other teachers were ultimately indicted on more than 300 counts of molestation.
2 South Bay preschools.
It wasn't long before accusations of abuse were being reported at 7 other daycare centers in LA County alone.
Investigators were at the Hickory Preschool in Torrance earlier today.
And I believe this is what Wong, Wedger, Garish, like all the other charlatans, I believe that's what they've tried to create here. This is what Jeanette Archer's cult, and it is a cult now, is trying to create. Why? Why would you want this level of mayhem and destruction to run through communities? Traumatizing people to the point that they're seeing satanic abuse where there is none. Because the mantra is telling them that every little tiny thing that is wrong is that. Why do they want to create this? Because all the time this was going on in these communities, do you reckon other things were going underneath the radar? Probably, because the focus was somewhere else on some mass level.
And then fear spread across the country, eventually targeting scores of daycare centers. But the story that initially fed the panic was not all it seemed. In the summer of 1983, a 39-year-old mother called the Manhattan Beach Police Department and accused McMartin teacher Raymond Bucky of molesting her 2.5-year-old son.
In the DA's office, all kinds of doubts developed, particularly about the fact that the mother of the first complaining child was psychotic, but they just kept on going. It was like the Titanic. It was like a roller coaster or a ship that just was out of control and couldn't stop.
The police released Bucky for lack of evidence. But then they sent out this letter to some 200 families, instructing them to question their children about sodomy, oral sex, and fondling.
What happens then?
I mean, can you imagine if you're just a parent and you've got a toddler at a preschool and you get this through the post? you'd be panicked. You'd think, wow, there has to be a decent chance that something has happened to my precious child here. Otherwise, they wouldn't be sending me a letter like this. You can see how this could have turned into what it did. Because if I'd ever received something like that, that's exactly the way I would have thought.
Is the parents start to talk to their kids, and then they start to talk to each other, and then they start to compare notes, and pretty soon emotionally involved parents are engaging in leading and suggestive questioning of their child.
Kenneth Lanning worked with the FBI's Behavioral Science Unit and consulted on the McMartin investigation.
Once these cases are contaminated, it's almost impossible to know with any degree of certainty what actually happened.
But the therapists at CII believed they knew what had happened. Based on their videotaped interviews, they said that more than 90% of the 400 preschoolers they talked to reported signs of sexual abuse.
Mr. Parrott, can you help Susie show us what happened to her?
The courts immediately sealed CII's interviews with the McMartin children. But the CII therapists shared demonstration videos like this one with the press and discussed their findings on television.
We have heard it 100 times or more from children. The same things, the same games, the same descriptions.
I can't say that I ever saw a videotape where kids said this happened to me.
Now, I don't know if it was this case when I was researching cults and this sort of satanic panic, but I found some interviews from other now adult children that had been caught up in this satanic panic, and they were saying that they felt that they had to go along with this because they were just asking the same thing over and over and over again, and they felt like they were in trouble for not giving the correct answer. So in the end, they just gave in and said, "Yeah," and that was enough. Away it went.
Never of their own account, spontaneously.
The interviews are upsetting to read because essentially what happened is the therapists unintentionally coerced the children into fabricating stories of abuse.
Richard Beck wasn't even born when the McMartin story first broke in 1984. Fascinated by the panic that spread across the country, he has been researching and writing a book on the case for the last 2 years.
You have interviews that will start off with a therapist asking a child whether they had ever played any naked games. At McMartin, this was a huge topic, was naked games. And the children initially say no. The therapist, though, didn't accept those answers. So then they repeat the question. And then they repeat it again. Eventually, the children realize that their interview is never going to be allowed to end until they start giving the interviewer the kind of answer that she wants to hear.
I need to find those again where actually the children are speaking. I don't think it's on this one. This was just a 2-minute grab when I looked at this Wilfred Wong. I'm not sure if they're going to have the children in this interview, but there is, and I don't know if it's even this case, but around that time, similar case. I need to drag them out.
It was obvious in the interviews that all kinds of techniques were highly suggestible, highly pressuring, and is capable of creating false memories of abuse in children, often permanent memories.
Key McFarlane is no longer with CII. She declined our...
Do you remember that? False memory doesn't exist. That's what John says, isn't it?
request for an interview. Dr. Stephen Ambrose has been working with children for more than 25 years and was at CII during the McMartin interviews.
I think our therapists, in many respects, started out being very careful about that back then, but as they became more persuaded that something had happened, there probably were some leading questions.
Dr. Ambrose says the McMartin case came about just as a new understanding of child sexual abuse was emerging.
It happened right at a time in the sort of the history of the field when we were just beginning to come to terms with the fact that child sexual abuse was a real phenomenon.
Wake up, America. This is your wake-up call.
People don't want to believe that young children have been molested. They'd much prefer to believe that it's not true.
We believe the children because once upon a time, we were the children, and nobody believed us.
But that belief was sorely tested as investigators searched for physical evidence to back up what the children were saying.
Oh, okay, so they're looking for physical evidence. What about all the tunnels? The archaeologists? Liar. Wilfred Wong was a liar. Is a liar. Will continue in prison to be a liar. Will come out of prison and still be a liar.
No pornography that could be linked to the abuse that the children were describing has ever been found.
There should have been little animal carcasses. There should have been bodily fluids all over the preschool. They didn't have any of that.
And what about those early claims of satanic abuse?
There certainly have been mentally ill people who have gone out and killed people, quote, in the name of Satan. But there's never been any proof that there was any kind of satanic ritual abuse or satanic cult activity in a daycare center.
When I first got involved in these cases, I'll be very honest with you, I tended to believe that this was going on. But eventually, the number of cases just kept growing and growing and growing. And at some point, I came to the realization, this many people.
And is this what Wedge wants? This kind of lunacy to spread round like the common cold? What's the agenda here? What's the end game?
Can't be doing this to this many victims for this long and not leaving any corroborative evidence behind. It just doesn't work that way.
18 months after the McMartin investigation began, the case took a dramatic turn.
What we're left with at this point is that for 5 of the 7 defendants in the McMartin case, the evidence is so slim that it does not go beyond the mere accusation.
So in April of 1987, nearly 4 years after the first accusation was made, the case against the 2 remaining McMartin defendants, Raymond Buckey and his mother Peggy McMartin Buckey, finally went to trial. In court, medical evidence supporting the prosecution's case couldn't be established with any certainty, and although hundreds of children had been interviewed, in the end, only 9 testified.
After extremely lengthy cross-examination of children at the preliminary hearing, some parents decided that they would refuse to let their children participate any further.
Through it all, the Buckeys remained steadfast about their innocence.
And can you imagine that? Young kids at preschool, so under the age of 5. Now 4 years has passed and they're on the stand. How can that be reliable? Like very impressionable little young minds 4 years down the road being subjected to this shit. It's disgusting. And this is what Wilfred, Wedger, Archer, Garish, this is what they want, is it? Is this really what they want? And why the hell is Sean Atwood promoting these people? I mean, after the Wilfred Wong thing and the fact that John went on there and basically defended Wilfred Wong, how? Why is he doing that? What's the point? What is the point? Because this isn't going anywhere. This isn't, well, it is going somewhere, but it's not going anywhere good, is it?
It's true, when I'm very nervous, I probably have said some things that are not quite correct, and I'll grant it and I'll admit that.
Including Mr. Buckey, whether or not you molested children in this case?
No, Mr. Rubin, I know that I did not molest children ever in my life.
The trial lasted nearly 3 years. And in January of 1990,
we, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the very defendants not guilty.
The children were never.
So 7 years. 7 years at this point. Ugh. Beggars belief, doesn't it?
Allowed to say in their own words what happened to them. And to me, that was crucial.
The jury could not agree on 13 counts against Raymond Buckey. So 6 months later, prosecutors brought him back to court. Once again,
poor sod. Look at them there with their banners, their little stickers. Oh, who else do we know that does that?
The jury was deadlocked.
Therefore, there's legal necessity to declare a mistrial.
And with that declaration, one of the longest, most expensive criminal trials in U.S. history finally came to an end.
And look at that. So it ends in a mistrial. And do you know what? Like has been thrown at me, there'll be a percentage of the people that will go, yeah, but you weren't found innocent, were you? So you can have a whole pack of lies made up. You can have your life absolutely ripped apart. And because there isn't enough evidence, because it's all unreliable evidence, that leaves the door open for people then to continue on like Wilfred Wong and go, it was well, he doesn't even know that. I don't know where he got this from. But it was a mistrial. Doesn't mean he's innocent, does it? Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. All so wrong. And this is where John, the wonder detective, he wants to take us here, does he? Is this where he wants to take us?
I'm glad it's over.
McMartin lead prosecutor Lael Rubin says that while she wishes the outcome had been different, the case brought about important changes.
Very young children who may or may not have been sexually abused have certainly been traumatized by endless hours of relentless examination.
Among them, a new understanding on the best way to interview children.
Who should do it, who should be present, how all of that should occur and be videotaped. So it really created a dialogue of examining the best way to talk to children who might be victims of crimes.
Nowadays, as opposed to back when the McMartin case took place, there's a very clear protocol about how to interview kids, and there's a very strong focus on avoiding leading questions of any kind. There's much more care taken to make sure that whatever the results are, they will stand up in court.
When the trial ended, the McMartin preschool was demolished. A laundry...
Oh, and underneath here is where all the tunnels were and the archaeologist was. Yep. All right, Wilf.
and dry cleaning store now sits in its place. After his acquittal, Raymond Buckey made a few television appearances, like this one on The Larry King Show.
What do you want to do in your life? I want to be left alone. I've seen what the news media can do to people in a crowded situation, and I don't want to be in LA, and I want to be left alone. Simple.
Poor man. Poor man. Ugh. Ugh. It makes me feel sick.
Life.
For Raymond Buckey's defense attorney, Danny Davis, the impact of the McMartin case should never be forgotten.
It brings into focus that our American culture can do harm to our children in the next generation, to win at all costs, to have a great publicity run, to jump the ratings and make it for a day. Those are all adult aspirations at the sacrifice of children.
No, I'm going to leave it there. Oh, it's finished anyway. All right. Okay, so I hope I haven't chipmunked myself out here. That's pretty telling, isn't it? So, why is Jeanette doing this? Why is John doing this? Why is Atwood joining in here? What's going on? Had Bill Maloney not got caught out by Brian Harvey, is this where he would have taken us? I mean, I think so. I mean, that's my opinion. Nothing good is coming from this, and it's still in its early stages. We've heard from Gary she's playing the long game here. Is the long game to end up back here again? I hope not. I really hope not. Right, anyway, oh God. That's it. I'm out. This is going to hopefully upload on Saturday at some stage. So, yep. Anyway, we'll do a live when I'm able to. Anyway, look after your lovely selves. Thanks for joining us. And I know this is another long one, but this needs the bigger picture here needs to be shown. I'm watching on the internet like what's going on with regards to the little foot soldiers here, and they're doing what they do. It's not nice. It's not nice. I'm not going to get into it. It's not my. I don't have sort of a horse in the race here. I've been here from the beginning, really. Before I had the channel, I've been watching these arseholes. It's just really, really unfortunate, and I think it's easy to get clouded with all of the text messages, the voice messages, the personal attacks, and kind of lose sight of what is their bigger picture here. I still don't know. I still don't know. But I know it's not good. Anyway, look after yourselves, and I'll catch you when I can. All right. Bye. Bye.